This is Gemara and Beitzah Daf Mem, the final daf of this Masechta, this month and a plus long journey. And today's learning is as well sponsored as a schos for the new Chassan and Kala, the new couple of Jitzi Boleg and Debbie Carniol, that they should build a Bayis Nemabi Yisrael. The Sheva Brachas continues with the celebration of the entire Chabura, the entire Daf Yomi family, that we all learn B'schusam, that they should be able to continue building their marriage on the right foot. And of course, all our Chaydim Shmuel Yosef ben Yefeder Shalom ben Yudah men Vevegu Chaim and Sar Shalom Zibin and Yizah Sar Baskin. Mendel, Ita Basimas Chaisay Yisol Mendel Spencer Jalei Shamas Nami Bashafigu Shulchan Shmol Bentil Dinu Khan Rezel Mulchai Masmin Lidina Ina Bashin Mendes Viv Vegevern Michael Zvena Sel Hoover Rivka Bas Shava. Naftali Sim Michlester Besoy Shar Chali Israel as well as Shedach Vishol Chaim in the version Miriam Basri is a Gidol Shan Lazarus Ran Makol Yomorcha Ben Dabashendo is a Gidol Bas Dabashendo. They should find their zivug, and like we mentioned a few days ago, let's hope one day we could all very quickly learn for their Sheva Brachas as well. We pick it up on the very bottom of Lamed Testament Bees, the final mission. Actually, not the final Mishnah, but the final daf of the Masechta. Let's get going, says the Mishnah. Misha. Well, let's get the highlighter up and rolling one more time. Here we go. Says the Mishnah, I have fruit in a different city. And the people in that city makes an Eruv for my fruit. I'm sitting here in Yerushalayim, and let's say I have a basket of apples out in Tel Aviv. I can't get to Tel Aviv on Shabbos, but the people in Tel Aviv realize that. So the people in Tel Aviv make an Eruv. They make an Eruv. They want to make an Eruv, Kaina Shvisa, 2,000 Amos, etc., to be able to bring me the fruit. Okay, I don't know if this is a plausible example. Tel Aviv is probably too far from me, but everyone gets the example. Is that if the people in that city make the Eruv, Lahavi Atzlai mi Peiraisav, in order to bring to him from its fruits, they're not able to. Of course, this makes a lot of sense because they're not the owner. I'm the owner. The fact that those people in that city, they want to extend their tchum is beautiful, but we all know, and we've been learning this past few days, that person's items go by his tchum. So those apples, my fruit, goes by my tchum. So the fact that they extended their tchum is not going to help my apples. However, but let's say I made an eruv. If I extended my eruv and I could get to my apples, then the apples have the same, then your produce has the same status as you. That is the first in the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, a similar application. You invite over a guest, and you want to send guests home, and you want to send them home with food. You're not allowed to give them food. Why not? Because that food goes by your tchum. Unless you were zeicha, unless you were mezaka, you gave it to them on Erev Yantif. A very, very important Rashi here, which speaks out a little bit of a confusing din. Says Rashi, Misha, the top line, Misha Zimin Etzla Archim, Mi'ira Cheres. They're from another city. V'yavoya Etzla Ali De'irav. They made an Erev Tchumim to allow themselves to come to you. However, says Rashi, Lo Yolichu La'achar Asuda Monais B'yadin L'Beisam L'Suda Layla, cause unless they were made a kinyan in the items on Erev Yantif. Why? Because then they would be able to take it back with them. But if not, of course, someone's items go by him, so they can eat in my house, because once you're within a house, you're within Dalan Amais. But to take my food out of the house, they can't do it. They could walk, but they can't take my items out of the house. And Rashi, just to point out one random, but a little bit of a different application based on this Mishnah, is you can't give a matana on Shabbos. You're not allowed to give a gift. One of the eitzes is, like it says here in the Mishnah, like Rashi points out, you could be mizaka, you could give it to them before Shabbos, and then there's no problem giving it to them on Shabbos because they already are considered owners before Shabbos. Says the Gemara, if someone gives a fruit as a deposit next to his friend, a classical machlekes Rav and Shmuel, whose chum does these peiros go like? We have the peiros which are a pikadon, they are a deposit by someone else. So Rav says, it goes by the one watching them. It goes by the person who has it in his rishos. And Shmuel says, no, it goes by the owner. I'm the owner. Let's just make a simple case. I own fruit. I give to you to watch it. I deposit it by you. Says Rav, you're the one that watched it. It's your tchum. Shmuel says, no, it's my fruit. It goes by my tchum. Says the Gemara, what is machlekes? Lema Rav Shmuel does l'tamayu. Let's say they're going according to their own reasoning. The Tanan and Mishnah Babakama Bamatzia and Mechnes Bershos Balachot. that if they came with the rishos, if someone brings into his yard and the yard owner, if I bring something into your yard and you give me rishos, then you're chayiv for any damages. Rabbi Omer, not he has to accept upon himself to actually watch it. Again, you tell me come into my backyard, and I come into your backyard, and I bring with me my apples, and my apples get ruined. So who is chayiv right now? Says the Tanakam. Well, the mere fact you let me come into your backyard makes you a shaymer, and if the item gets ruined, you're chayiv. Says Rabbi, no, you have to explicitly accept upon yourself to watch the items. V'Omer Rav Yehuna Amar Rav, and Rav Huna Amar Rav says halachic divrei chachamim. Rav asking like the chachamim. Ushmol Amar halachic Rabbi, and Shmuel said we're going to go like Rabbi. So says the Gemara Leima Rav Damar Karabanan Ushmol Damar Karabi. So let's say that the machlekes Rav and Shmuel, whether it goes by the mafkid, whether one goes by the one that the mishef kido yatzlai, is the same machlekes. Again, the Rav is going to say like the Rabbanan, that there's automatically, implicitly applied that you accept upon yourself a Shmira. And similarly, when I give you an item, it goes by your Tchum, says Rav. And Shmuel is going to say no. He's going to go with Rabbi, and only if you explicitly say, I'm going to watch your item. And if not, who's the owner? I'm the owner. And therefore it goes by my Tchum. Says the Gemara, Amr L'cha Rav. Rav says, Rav, no. Now we're going to have a classical exchange of the Gemara. We suggested the Machlekes Rav and Shmuel is that Machlekes Rabbi and the Chachamim, and the Gemara is going to say no. Says Rav, I'll tell you, Anadamri Afilu Rabbi. Says Rav, I don't have to only go with the Chachamim. I can even agree to Rabbi that you have to explicitly accept upon yourself to watch the item. Says Rabbi, I don't implied that I'm going to watch your item because I let you into my backyard. But in our case, of course, everyone can see a clear differentiation in our cases. In our case, I gave you an item to watch. So says Rav, this has nothing to do with the Rabbi. Rabbi's case is I let you into my backyard. I never said I'm going to watch it. But over here, if I said I'm going to watch your item, it's Eipakada, and then of course, it's very different. Shmuel Amar, another Amar Filu Rabban. Ad can come Rabban Nasa Al Denichel Inish and Nekim Tura Bershu say the Baal Chatzer. Over there says Shmuel a different differentiation. Says Shmuel, you know the differentiation over there is Denichel. It's good for him. It's good for whom? One more time, it's good for a person to negim ture that his act should be where? In the owner of the Baal Chatzar. When I go into your yard, I want my items to be in your rishos. Because if it damages, I don't want to be liable. So when I come into your backyard with my items, I almost like give them away automatically. And that's the reason why over there we said that the Baal Chatzar is going to be chayiv. But in our case is not, and therefore says the Shmuel, there's also a clear differentiation between the two cases. So the Gemara strikes out, trying to prove that Rav and Shmuel's machlek is Rabbi and the Chachamim. Says the Gemara, nothing doing. Ask the Gemara, let's ask a kasha and Rav. Again, Rav said it goes by the one who's watching the fruit, it's his feet's tchum. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Vim Irevhu, pay rice of Kamayu. If you make an Erev, then your fruit goes by you. Says the Gemara, 1 second. According to Rav, my fruit are in Tel Aviv. Who is Tchum? Who's watching those fruit? Those in Tel Aviv. So what does it help if I make an Erev? Meaning, what did the Mishnah say? My fruit is in another city. Said the Mishnah, if I, the owner, make an Erev, I could get my fruit. 1 second. According to Rav, when my fruit are somewhere else, who's watching that item? That's someone else. So I can't make an Erev. Says the Gemara, Amar Ravuna, Amar Bei Rav, Kigoin, Sheich LeKaren Zavis. And this is going to be the answer right now to a lot of the questions. The answer is always going to be that you're miyachid a keren zavis. That the reason is you gave him a corner to watch. That's the case is when. One more time. The Mishnah is talking about a case where he gave him a specific corner to put the items, and therefore he's not watching it. In that case, Rav would agree that it goes by me. When did Rav say, if I give my fruit to you and you're watching it, is when I just gave it to you. It's in your rishos, so you're watching, it goes by your tchum. But when the Mishnah said that even though my fruit is in another city, I still have the power, I can make an erev about it, that was in a case where my items were put in a special corner. You said put them in a corner, meaning you're not watching it. You're giving me that corner to do what I want with. Tashma, we're going to have a similar few of the exact same case back and forth. Tashma, Mishazimin Atzli Archim. Someone who invites guests, the end of the Mishnah. You can't send the home food with them. If you're going to tell me like Rav, it goes by the one that you gave the items to. What is help giving it by someone else? It's not theirs. Again, what does it mean? Give them the items by someone else? It means as if you give them in a corner, meaning you give them 100% ownership. If you actually give it to them, that's different. Two different answers. Rav Chanan. Now we have a bit of a story, 4 lines into the white lines. Rav Chanan bar Chanilai talabitsar bever the dasha. Rav Chanan bar Chanilai hung his meat over the door bolt before Yantav began. Ravuna. He came before Ravuna to ask, is he allowed to now take the meat home? Amarlei, Iyatalis, Zil Shakil. Ravuna says, if you hung it, go and take it home. Vienu Talulacha. But if the host, if someone else hung it, then Loy Tishkol, then don't take it. That's how Ravuna answered. It depends who's the one that hung it up. If you hung it, it's yours. But if the person that you're staying by hung it, it's theirs. Ask the Gemara, Vihu Tala Mi Shakil. 1 second. If he himself hung it, is he allowed to take it home? Why? Ravuna Rav Ravuna is the Talmud of Rav. And Rav said it goes by the one that you put it by. So how could Ravuna tell Rav Chana bar Chanilai to take it home if he hung it up? What's the difference that you hung it up? It goes by Mishef Gido Yatzlai, which is the owner of the house. Says the Gemara, again, when you put something over the doorpost, that's as if the owner of the house said it's yours, it's your rishus, and therefore you're not giving it to them. Amarle Rav Hillel, the Rav Ashi. Says Rav Hillel to Rav Ashi. Now we're going to continue in the last story that we just quoted. What was the second part of Ravuna's answer? That if the host hung it up, then you cannot take it. Says Mara, 1 second, says Rav Hillel to Rav Ashi. It goes by any person. So to over here, so why should the meat be able to again be going to any person? Rav Chanina bar Chanilai should take it home. Amli Ravina Rav Ashi v'enu talilei loy shakil. Says Ravina Rav Ashi. 1 second. And if the host hung it up, would he not have been able to take it home? V'amar Rabbi Chanina Rav Yechon Rav Daisa. We paskin like Rav Daisa, that when you have an animal, what's the halacha? It goes by wherever it was, even when it comes into his possession on Yantif. So when it got hung up for him, it goes by his rishus. Again, we said in the Mishnah that if I'm for sure going to give you the animal on Yantif, it goes by your rishus. So to over here, it should be the same thing because he put it up for him. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi, the Rav Kana, V'yenu talulei lo shakel. Again, it's like this ping pong game back and forth, and you're going to tell me he's not going to take it home. It goes by the owner. So then, again, it should not go by it should. Again, he should be able to take it home. So again, the Gemara back and forth doesn't understand why Rav Huna did not allow them to take home the meat. And therefore says the Gemara, you're right, Rav Huna wasn't discussing Tchum. Elishayni Rav Chana bar Chanilai de Gaver Rabo. Betardibish might say he was very busy learning, and that's where Rav Huna said, do not take the meat hung up by the host, because it's something, a totally different halacha. Basar and it's alim in ayin. It's something that you don't know what it is, you don't know where it came from, you don't know, maybe a raven took it and put back a different piece of meat, you don't know if it's kosher at all. Nothing to do with Tchum. And this is where Ravuna was telling to him, if you hung it up, if you hung up the item, you know your meat, you have a siman, and you're able to take it home. If someone else put it there, you don't know anything, you're busy learning, you're not paying attention, so don't take it home. So what comes out is two fascinating halachas. Is number one, with regard to the halachas of Tchum, no shayches. Of course, if it's yours, if you hung it up for you, if you knew about it beforehand, all the reasons why it goes by your Tchum, and therefore Rav Chanina bar Chanilai would certainly be able to take it home, it would go by his Tchum. The reason over here not is a different halacha, Basar and Salim and Ayin. If you have food and you don't know where it came from, you're not allowed to eat it, you have no clue where it came from. So he is telling him, if you hung it up, you made a siman, great, it's yours, you can take it home. But if you didn't hang it up and you're not paying attention, you have no clue where that meat came from, maybe someone else took it, put it back. Therefore, you cannot take it. Just to point out, of course, when you have something with a siman, when you have something that's sealed, when you have something that looks whether it's tampered or not, that is enough usually of an answer, definitely b'diavad, to allow one to eat it. The classical case, you leave a sandwich in a public fridge, if there's no reason someone would take your sandwich and swap it with a different sandwich, then there's no reason to assume that, certainly if it's sealed, etc. But again, that's in the b'diavad, and the l'chatchila, we always put things in double seals, etc. Says the Mishnah, the final Mishnah, it should be a famous Mishnah, we've seen this in the Gemara Shabbos of this Masechta. Ein mashkin v'sheichtin as a midbariyos, you're not allowed to water, you're not allowed to shecht, midbariyos, range animals. Aval mashkin v'sheichtin as a baisais, you're allowed to water and shecht, the baisais, the domesticated animals, the Gemara will define. Eluin abaisais, what is a baisais, a domesticated animal? Alanes be'ir, it comes back and it sleeps in town. Midbariyos, what is a range animal? Alanes ba'afar, it sleeps out in the pasture, it doesn't come back home. So if it comes back home, it's domesticated. If it comes back home, it's domesticated, then you're allowed to shecht it, you're allowed to water it. If it doesn't come back home at night, you're not allowed to shecht it, and you're not allowed to water it. Says the Gemara, let's first figure out what is this halacha, shechting and watering your animals. Why do you have to tell me both? Really, of course, it's only talking about shechting it. There's nothing wrong with watering, with giving an animal water to drink. So why did the Mishnah list watering? Says where you're right. It said watering for a totally different reason. Teach me a different halacha. It's telling you the good way to shecht, giving you some good advice, a life hack. You should first water your animals before you shecht it. You know why? Because of the adhesion of the hides, the skin sticks to the body. But if you let the animal drink a lot of water, the skin comes separate from the hide, and after the shechita, it'll be easier to skin and take off the hide. So the Mishnah is teaching you a practical point, nothing to do with the halacha. Of course, you could always water an animal, but it's telling you it's better to water the animal before you shecht it, because then it enables you to skin it even better. Taner Rabbanan, it says the Beitzah, learning and explaining our Mishnah. 6 lines to the bottom. Midbariyos, what is this range animal? It goes out in the Pesach season, and it grazes ba'afar in the pasture. It comes back by the first rain. It stays all the way out from Pesach to the first rain. What's domesticated animal? It goes out and grazes outside the tchum, and it comes back in the tchum to sleep. That is the first opinion. The difference between domesticated or not is non-domesticated stays out from Pesach to the first rain, and domesticated comes back to sleep. Rabbi Yomer Elevin Beitzah says, Rabbi, no. Those are both domesticated. Even if it goes out and comes back by the first rain, even that's domesticated, says Rabbi. Elohein mibarios. You know what a range animal is? I'll tell you, says Rabbi. It goes out and eats in the pasture, and it never comes back into the city. It doesn't come back to civilization, neither in the summer nor in the winter. Says the Gemara. So according to that, what's going to come out according to Rabbi? It's going to come out that the animal is going to be muksa, because since the animal never comes back, you're never going to be allowed to use the animal. Says the Gemara 1 second, the Rabbi muksa. Does Rabbi really subscribe to this halacha of muksa? But Rav Shimon bar Rabbi asked Rabbi, Pitzliye Tamara. Okay, we're gonna have to do this. There we go. Psliye Tamara. If you have the pits of these dried, not the dried figs. You have the Psliye Tamara. Rashi says that they're not fully ripe. They're not fully. I'm having issues over here. One more time. Psliye Tamara, right? They're not fully ripe dates. The Rav Shimon Mahu. What's Allah according to Rav Shimon? Amar Le, he responded, Ein muksa Rav Shimon. There's no muksa to Rav Shimon as we turn over to Ma'ameh Beis. What's the only case of muksa according to Rav Shimon? Only dried figs and raisins. Those are the two cases of muksa according to Rav Shimon. Now, who is the one that just quoted this memoir? Rabbi. So Rabbi seemingly agrees with Rav Shimon. So why does Rabbi say that when I have a range animal that it never comes back home, it's going to be muksa? Seemingly, Rabbi does not subscribe to that shita. So we have a kasha on Rabbi. Rabbi quoted Rav Shimon. But on the other hand, the Gemara just showed that Rabbi seemingly holds that range animals are muksa. answers the Gemara, if you want, you can answer, that these animals, since they never come back, you sent them away, you sent them out, it's like Grogers and Tzimukim. We call Dache Biyadayim. You push them away, and therefore Rebbe will agree, like Rav Shimon will agree, they're muksa. They're like dried figs, it's something you put out of your mind, that's why they're muksa. My second teretz, Lidvarav Rav Shimon Kamar, Valelois Firle. Rebbe really doesn't hold the muksa. But Rebbe is saying too, to Rav Shimon. That's how the way to learn of that Beitzah. That really he himself does not hold of this the way that he explained to Rav Shimon, and he therefore could hold that the animals are muksa. You just explain to Rav Shimon. V'yibayisema third teretz l'dveim d'Rabbanan kamar lu. He's saying to the Rabbanan, Lididi says Rabbi I hold in muksa. You the Rabbanan ugly miya zeichel diyas rise b'pesach v'nachas b'riyah. So Rabbi was telling the Chachamim, I hold there's no such thing as muksa, but you the Chachamim, you hold the muksa. You should at least admit, if the animal goes out on Pesach and it comes back for a Revir Yishanim by the first rain, the Beitzah same. You should at least admit to me that is called domesticated and not muksa. Why do you say they're muksa? And the Rabbanan respond, Lo imid those animals, if you send them out, and you're sending them out to graze for months and months, and they're not going to come back in, they're range animals, and the Rabbanim will hold that they are, yes, muksa. And that's this final discussion in Rebbe and the Chachamim, a little bit, taking a little bit of a left turn to finish the Masechta with this midbariyos and baisis, the domestic and these range animals, whether they're muksa or not. And of course, we conclude, we of course have to do a fabulous chazar of this wonderful Masechta, all these short Mesachtais, Mirz Hashem, hopefully everyone, I invite everyone to invite a friend from Rosh Hashanah. It's a short Mesachta as well. And Mirz Hashem, as always, we should continue being able to learn many, many more Mesachtas together. If anyone is still listening, we're going to try to start arranging a siyum on the all of Ma'id in a few months from now. Please reach out, send an email. I would love to try to coordinate, see how many members of the Chabura we could get together, try to make a beautiful siyum and Mirz Hashem at the end of Ma'id in a few months. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.